Maybe 20% of any leaders have any clue at all about anything to do with purpose. And most of them are about noble purposes. There's other stuff that really is not what we're talking about. The data shows that if you work for somebody who has clarity of purpose, you get all kinds of upside. It's enormous, the positive consequence. What's interesting is that another study shows for employees who have a sense of meaning, once again, you get this enormous lift in return. If you have two companies that are making similar products that are competing, I can't think of anything that would make more of a difference than if the organization had clarity about its purpose and the people did, and the connection between the two was clear. You get something you can't get otherwise. Ben & Jerry's, you walk into the store, there's a lot of other stuff sitting on the shelf. There's a lot of local stuff we now see on the shelf, but it's growing double digits still because the people inside the organization have clarity of purpose themselves, and the organization does, and it gets you a whole different arc. My view is that all organizations of the 21st century who are going to survive and be around 10 years from now are going to have this as a core ingredient. It's going to be non-negotiable. This is the field book for authentic leadership. I sat down with Bill George in 2007 and could finish his sentences and had figured out how to make this thing work. And we basically turned it into a whole curriculum that's been used for the MBA class at Harvard, second-year class for Harvard for the last 10 years. And when we did it, there was 12 topics, and there was a couple who I really liked. It was Crucible, Sweet Spot, and Purpose was in there because we had to have it in there. It was just number 9 on the hit list, that's all. The first client I get is GE working with the top 300. At Crotonville. Now, if there's ever a place in your life you would not want to pilot something you've never done before, this is it. This is not a population that is really easy. I got to work with them from 2007 to 2009, and the stock went from 56 to 6. There was a point in which basically there was no bottom. What happened was, as we did the purpose work, we would have these leaders come back to the program as alumni, and they'd come up to me and they'd say, Nick, in the old days, when we had to close down plants and do tough things, I'd say to the group, listen, for you guys, it's going to be a tough year. It's going to be really challenging. You're not going to see your family much, but I'm going to give you a whole bunch of stock options, some other stuff. You'll be okay. And the guy says, now I went back. All the stock options have no value. I got no stock options to give them. The only thing I could give them that I could stand on was my purpose. Because everything else, all the extrinsics had been stripped away. He said, look, my purpose is to help you have a great adventure when all hell breaks loose. And you know what? Right now, all hell's breaking loose, and I'm going to live my purpose. And if you're going to stay, you're going to stay because that's why you're staying. He says, not only did they stay, but they turned around the business. And then I went, ooh, this thing has legs. What's going on here? If you can work in the most difficult place on the planet, what would it look like if you did it someplace really fun? The fun thing shows up. Unilever, 2009, wonderful history of doing some really crazy, amazing leadership development stuff. And Paul Polman becomes CEO, and he has this crazy, challenging agenda. They're about a $40 billion company. He decides that he's going to grow it to $80 billion by 2020. But not just that, he's going to basically create a sustainable living plan. And he's going to reduce the company's overall environmental footprint by 50%, and the whole sustainable agricultural procurement process, and really put procurement on the leading edge of creating a company that can actually be viable in the 21st century. Now, one of these is easy. Both of these is really, really hard to do. We get the assignment to help these guys. We do the 4-day program, Authentic Leadership. We take from column A, we take 8 of the 12 topics, and we run them, and it's all great, all powerful, 4 years, and the alumni come back. And we say, okay, what'd you get? Well, here's what they said. Purpose is the magic that makes everything work. There's no other way to grow that fast and do an environmental footprint reduction at the same time unless you're completely crazy or you have a purpose. Purpose creates we, not I, goals and actions. Their leadership development plans went from here's how I'm going to make it to the top and be wonderful to here's how we change the world. And my purpose is this. And every leader had a purpose and a whole plan for how they were going to live their purpose that Paul Polman, the CEO, reviewed for the top 400. And he gave feedback on every one of the plans. And it wasn't just nice plan. It was like, interesting, let's sit down, we need to talk about such and such. Purpose resolves the crazy paradoxes of leading like nothing else. So when all hell breaks loose, the purpose will take care of you in a way that nothing else can.